Hey everybody, welcome. This is Julie Maxon, the main stamper, and I am doing a video today on the Pick 6 Wonder cards. Now this video is designed for my online club members so that we can meet virtually and create our cards for the month of February. But I'm also putting this video in other places in case anyone that stumbles across it is interested in trying out the Pick 6 Wonder Designer Series paper cutting ideas. So this is different from our January challenge. In January, we did the one sheet wonder with a 12 by 12 piece of Designer Series paper, and we cut it all up into the really awesome pattern design that we followed along, made lots of cards out of that. This month, February, we're using 6 by 6 sheets of Designer Series paper, and you're actually supposed to use 6 pieces of 6 by 6 Designer Series paper to do this challenge. Now, Club Girls, I've mailed out your samples in the mail. You should have gotten them already. You're only going to have 2 sheets. So we're just making a small sampling of what you could actually do if you had 6 pieces of 6 by 6 paper, but everyone has paper, so you can definitely cut some more up at home if you want and follow along with this challenge. But your papers that you have received in the mail are cut already, so all you have to do really is assemble. Now, the best part about the 6 by 6 paper is that if you don't have 6 by 6 paper, take your 12 by 12s and cut them down into 6 by 6s. Isn't math cool, right? So your 12 by 12 sheet is going to give you 4 6 by 6 pieces of paper. Isn't that awesome? All right, so let's go over to the workspace here, and I'm going to show you what we are working with right now. So at home, you're going to have a sampling of the Sweet Symmetry paper, and I love this one. It's got Bumblebee, Calypso Coral, Flirty Flamingo, Just Jade, and Night of Navy. Now, the reason that I picked some of these papers is because, well, of course, the Stampin' Up! Papers coordinate beautifully together from one paper pack, right? This is 6 of the papers. And these were all 12 by 12, by the way. I chopped my entire pack of 12 by 12 into 6 by 6s, and I never cut paper into 6 by 6, but this is a really great way to try this out and use it. So they all have small patterns. You can kind of see that they all have small imagery on them, and then on the back, of course, they're a little bit busier, but again, they're smaller patterns. So the reason I picked this pattern pack specifically is because you want smaller patterns because we're making small cuts. If you use a larger paper design, maybe like the pansies, for example, this one might not work quite as well. But another one that would work really well would be the hand penned. So you can see the smaller imagery on it. You can see lots of plain color backs. So one side's very busy, one side's very plain. I like that mix of plain and busy. So the hand penned would be a really great way to use the 6 by 6 as well. Now, when I mailed out your samples, I also mailed you out the Pick 6 Wonder Cutting Guide. This is what we're going to be cutting, and I'm going to show you right now in this video how to cut your paper, just in case you're looking at this and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So the directions say to start with 6 pieces of 6 by 6. I have already cut up some here, and so I can show you later on how those would all work together. I have 2 papers left, and in the mail I sent you 2 papers for my club girls. I'm cutting 2 at a time. So I'm taking my 6 by 6. I'm going to just move my trimmer up here a little bit. And the first line we're going to make, just like we did last month when we did the January challenge, we're going to look for our first long line. That's going to go all the way. So we're going to have our paper, first paper cut is going to be at 2.5. So again, I'm cutting 2 at a time. The trimmer can handle 2 pieces of Designer Series paper at a time. You just need to make sure that they're lined up as squarely as possible. So the first cut is 2.5. So I'm going to come down through here. I have 2.5, and then I have these other papers that are bigger. We're going to set aside this bigger one for right now and just focus on these. So we just made our very first cut here. This is the paper that we're working with right now. This side over here is what we just set aside. So the first 2 cuts are going to be at 1 3/4. So I'm going to just rotate my paper, again, making sure they're snugly secured here. And I'm going to do a 1 3/4 cut. And I'm going to move my paper up to the 1 3/4, and I'm going to do another one. So you're going to end up with 4 pieces that are this size, the 2.5 by 1 3/4, and the last one is a cube. This is 2.5 inches square. We're not going to do anything with this right now, but we are going to do something with it in a little bit. So I'm going to set these aside, and this just is so easy. This is a lot easier than doing the one sheet wonder where you had a bigger paper and you had to cut up a lot more. Now this piece of paper right here is what we had left over. So this is 3.5 inches wide, and our first cut is going to be 2 3/4 inches. So we're going to come down here to 2 3/4 on my trimmer. And I'm going to cut that one off and set that aside. And what you have left over here, you need to cut either 3/4 or 2.5 because they're going to equal out to the same thing. So if you prefer to put your paper in at 2.5 and cut here, you can do that. If you prefer to use the 3/4 on this side, you can put it over here. You're going to see that it lines up right at the same spot. So depending on how you feel like you're cutting it, you're really doing the same thing. So again, 2.5 and then 3/4. And this one is called a belly band. If you're looking at your directions, that's called a belly band. So I'm going to set all of those aside. And as promised, we're going to bring in the square cubes, the 2.5-inch squares. We're going to do something special with these ones. We're going to actually make some little slits in them. So the directions say to cut a slit 1 1/4 inch at and to the halfway mark. So I'm going to use the top of my trimmer up here. I'm going to try to bring this in. It is going to be really hard to see probably from a distance. And I'm just going to make sure I've got the design facing the way that I want to, but I'm going to line up my paper at 1 1/4. And then on the blade here, there are, probably super hard to see. I might lift this up a little bit. There are measurements on here. And when you have your blade, your cutting blade here, it's got a little slice here, and that is where the blade actually hits. So if you stop your blade on 1 1/4, which is right there, the cut will go to that spot. And I wanted to kind of show that to you up a little bit higher because obviously the camera is going to be way down here. So I've got my paper lined up at 1 1/4. This is my cutting blade. I'm just going to bring it down to 1 1/4. And I got to kind of look here because it's hard to see from a distance. But you're basically going to halfway. Now if you go a little bit over, it's okay. But basically you're putting a slit in your paper just enough so that if you bend this back, you can see that it's going to meet up. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with this one right here. I'm going to put this in at 1 1/4. I'm going to put my blade down, and I'm going to, right here is my 1 1/4. Actually, I'm going to leave my finger there so I can kind of see where I need to stop. So this is, again, 1 1/4, and I just made that slit in there. So I've got two papers, my two little cubes have slits in them. And these are going to be designed to actually, when we do our assembling, we're going to put them together, right? We're going to smush them together just like this. And then we're going to fold back one edge from each one. And I don't like that because that's too busy on that side. So I'm going to flip them around. Let's try this way. If we fold back one edge on each one, that's a little bit better. So you're going to see that we're going to get a little cube. So what we're making is cubes, and then these will get adhered down just like this. And you can, turn it around a little bit, but you're making little cubes. Aren't those awesome? Now, if you're not a fan of cutting the slits and you'd rather just cut little squares, you could do that, or, use them however you like. But this is the design for the slit so that we can put them together, and you can flip them over just like I did. Find two patterns that you think really look good together. And I like to keep my solids separate in separate opposite corners, and then the busier patterns again in a separate opposite corner. I just think that the cube looks better that way. But that is how we're going to be working with those in our very next video. Okay, so that was our paper cuts. Really easy, right? This was super simple. And if you follow along with the directions, you should have no problem at all. In the next video, I'm going to show you how we're going to continue to work with these papers and assemble them into some awesome cards. Now, if you do start with 6 pieces of 6x6 paper, you're going to get 14 cards out of these papers. So that's really awesome. So if you are ready to rock and roll, cut yourself up some card bases and some cardstock card bases, I should say, and your designer series paper, and then meet me in the next video and we're going to put them together to make fabulous cards. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.